The silence arrives like a living entity, breathing its own complex language of withdrawal. Imagine a soul that has touched the pinnacle of achievement, only to retreat into the most profound depths of isolation, as if success itself were a wound too painful to bear. There exists a psychological terrain where accomplishment becomes a source of unbearable vulnerability, where the very act of reaching a summit transforms into an invitation to complete emotional retreat. Consider the intricate landscape of the human psyche, where triumph is not a celebration but a trigger, where success becomes a mechanism that awakens the deepest, most terrifying internal mechanisms of protection. The mind constructs elaborate labyrinths of isolation, transforming achievement into a form of psychological exile, a self-imposed banishment from the very world that witnessed the moment of brilliance. Childhood memories pulse beneath this behavior like underground rivers. Perhaps it was a moment of childhood achievement met with coldness, a triumph followed by unexpected silence, a success that somehow threatened the delicate emotional ecosystem of the family. The young soul learns quickly that standing out invites a form of psychological danger, that visibility can be more threatening than any failure. And if these words awaken something inside you right now, allow yourself to respond with a small gesture of presence, maybe a like or a brief reflection. And if you feel that this journey speaks to something deep within you, subscribe so we can continue exploring these inner landscapes together. The unconscious mind becomes a master architect of isolation, constructing walls so intricate that they appear almost invisible. Each achievement is processed through a complex filter of fear, transformed from a moment of potential connection into a catalyst for complete withdrawal. The successful individual does not simply step back but creates an entire psychological landscape of absence, a carefully designed territory of emotional distance. Imagine the internal conflict as a silent war. On one side, the human need for recognition, the primal desire to be seen and acknowledged. On the other, a profound terror that success exposes the most vulnerable parts of the self. Achievement becomes a spotlight that threatens to reveal the hidden wounds, the unresolved traumas, the fragile inner child who learned that safety lies in invisibility. The body carries this story in its most subtle expressions. Muscles that tense at the moment of potential recognition, eyes that learn to look away, a nervous system that interprets success as a form of threat. Each achievement is like a stone thrown into the calm waters of the psyche, creating ripples of anxiety that threaten to disrupt the carefully maintained emotional equilibrium. Psychological isolation is not a simple act of withdrawal but a sophisticated defense mechanism. It is a language spoken in the dialect of survival, a strategy developed in the most intimate corridors of personal experience. The successful individual does not simply choose to be alone. They construct an entire ecosystem of emotional protection, where achievement becomes a potential predator to be carefully managed. Cultural narratives play a complex role in this psychological drama. Societies that simultaneously celebrate and fear individual brilliance create a minefield of emotional navigation. Success is not a straightforward path but a treacherous terrain where each step must be calculated, where visibility is a risk, where standing out threatens the delicate balance of belonging. The unconscious mind moves with the precision of a master strategist. It does not simply hide or retreat. It transforms the very experience of achievement into a form of psychological camouflage. A moment of success enters this internal processing plant and emerges reshaped, its energy redirected, its potential carefully contained within the narrowest possible boundaries. The landscape of inner isolation expands, revealing deeper territories of psychological complexity. Imagine achievement as a living organism, breathing and pulsing within the hidden chambers of consciousness, a creature both magnificent and terrifying. It moves like a wounded animal, simultaneously seeking connection and protection, trapped in the intricate networks of memory and fear. Each defense mechanism becomes a delicate architectural structure, a psychological fortress constructed with the most precise and fragile materials of human experience. The walls of this internal fortress are built from fragments of past rejections, from moments of vulnerability that echo through the years like distant, haunting whispers. Success becomes a dangerous guest, something to be managed, controlled, carefully contained within the narrowest possible emotional boundaries. Repression works like an invisible artist, sculpting potential into shadows, transforming vibrant achievements into muted landscapes of isolation. The mind becomes a master of disguise, creating elaborate camouflage mechanisms that render personal triumph almost unrecognizable. It is not about failure, but about a profound terror of being truly seen, of occupying the full spectrum of one's own capabilities. Trauma leaves its invisible fingerprints on every dream, every aspiration. The individual who has learned that achievement invites scrutiny develops an intricate system of psychological protection. Success becomes a form of silent rebellion and simultaneously a source of profound anxiety. Each moment of triumph is a negotiation, a complex dance between desire and fear, between the longing for recognition and the terror of potential exposure. If you feel these insights stirring something within you, share your voice and support this space with a like. These reflections help others find their way through the same shadows. And if you wish to keep walking with us through these deeper layers of the mind, join us by subscribing. The body speaks a language more profound than words. It carries the weight of unexpressed potential, of achievements held in silent captivity. Muscle tension becomes a form of memory, storing unspoken narratives of success and fear. The shoulders that never fully celebrate, the eyes that avoid direct acknowledgement, the voice that modulates itself to remain just beneath the threshold of true visibility, these are the physical manifestations of a profound psychological strategy. Consider how social dynamics become an accomplice in this complex drama. Cultural expectations create a psychological minefield where achievement is not a simple celebration but a treacherous terrain. Success transforms into a delicate negotiation, where each moment of triumph must be carefully managed, where visibility threatens the delicate balance of personal safety. The unconscious mind operates like a sophisticated filtering system. It does not simply hide achievement. It transforms it, breaks it down into smaller, less threatening fragments. A moment of success enters this internal processing plant and emerges reshaped, diminished, made palatable. The original impulse remains, but now it wears a disguise, a psychological mask that allows it to exist without triggering the deeper fears of exposure. Childhood experiences become the primary architects of this internal landscape. A critical environment, competitive dynamics, or moments of unexpected rejection. These are not mere memories but living psychological structures that continue to shape adult behavior. Achievement becomes a form of negotiation with these internalized voices, a delicate balancing act between personal potential and learned survival strategies. Psychological isolation is not a simple act of withdrawal but a complex language of self-preservation. Each moment of retreat becomes a sophisticated mechanism of protection, a way of managing the profound terror of being fully seen. The successful individual does not simply choose solitude. They construct an entire ecosystem of emotional safety, where triumph is carefully contained, where achievement is transformed into a whisper rather than a declaration. The internal conflict reaches a profound depth. The part of the self that longs for recognition battles with the protective mechanisms that have learned survival through invisibility. Success becomes a form of internal warfare, a negotiation between the desire to be witnessed and the terror of potential vulnerability. Darkness descends like a heavy curtain, revealing the most intimate landscape of psychological struggle. Here, in the deepest chambers of the unconscious, achievement transforms into a primal entity, wild, untamed, simultaneously terrifying and sublime. The internal war reaches its most profound moment, where the masks of protection begin to crack, where the elaborate defense mechanisms tremble at their very foundations. Imagine the soul as a complex architectural structure, with hidden rooms and locked corridors where unexpressed potential lives like a captive creature. Each suppressed moment of triumph becomes a ghost, wandering through the internal hallways, pressing against the walls of limitation, seeking release. The pressure builds, a silent scream contained within the most delicate psychological membranes. Trauma breathes. It is not a static entity but a living presence that pulses through the veins of experience. The wounds of past rejections are not scars but active organisms, constantly reshaping the landscape of possibility. Every moment of withdrawal, every instance of strategic isolation carries the weight of unspoken narratives, of achievements that were never allowed to fully exist. The body becomes a canvas of unexpressed potential. Muscles hold memories of moments of brilliance aborted, of triumphs suffocated, of success carefully contained. Each subtle gesture, each unconscious movement tells a story of survival, of a profound negotiation between individual potential and the terror of true visibility. The internal landscape is a battlefield where identity is constantly being negotiated, where the self fights against its own most profound impulses. Shame moves like a liquid through the psychological terrain, filling every crevice, every hidden space. It is not a simple emotion but a complex ecosystem of fear, a living mechanism that transforms achievement into a dangerous substance. Success becomes something to be feared, a predator waiting to consume the fragile sense of self that was so carefully constructed in the fires of survival. The unconscious mind operates with a complexity that defies simple understanding. It is a master of disguise, a creator of elaborate narratives that protect the most vulnerable parts of the self. Each defense mechanism is a work of art, a sophisticated strategy developed in the crucible of early experiences. The mind does not simply hide achievement, it transforms it, breaks it down, renders it unrecognizable. Childhood memories are not static photographs but living entities that continue to breathe and reshape themselves. The critical voices, the moments of unexpected rejection, the subtle messages that success is dangerous. These are not past events but active psychological structures that continue to sculpt adult behavior. Achievement becomes a complex negotiation with these internalized voices, a delicate dance between potential and protection. The internal conflict reaches its most intense moment. The suppressed self rises like a wounded animal, trapped between the desire for recognition and the terror of exposure. Each layer of defense begins to tremble, the carefully constructed walls start to show their first fractures. Something profound is about to break through, a moment of potential transformation hovering at the edge of consciousness. Psychological pain becomes a portal. What was once a source of limitation transforms into a potential pathway of liberation. The very mechanisms that once protected now become the instruments of a profound awakening. The soul stands at the threshold of a radical understanding, where the fear of achievement begins to dissolve, where the true self prepares to emerge from its long hibernation of isolation. The landscape of isolation begins to shift, revealing the first trembling possibilities of connection. The walls built so carefully start to show their first cracks. The locked rooms of the psyche begin to breathe, to whisper, to hint at the possibility of a different way of existing. The moment of awakening arrives like a soft dawn breaking through years of psychological winter. What was once hidden begins to emerge, tentative yet powerful, a self long suppressed now finding its first breath of true liberation. The internal landscape transforms, the locked rooms of the psyche opening one by one, revealing the brilliant potential that had been carefully concealed beneath layers of fear and isolation. Understanding arrives not as a violent revelation, but as a gentle comprehension. The mechanisms of withdrawal were never enemies, but profound protection systems developed by a deeply intelligent self struggling to survive. Each moment of isolation, each strategic retreat becomes understood as an act of profound self-preservation, a complex language of survival written in the most intimate dialect of personal experience. The trauma that once imprisoned potential now becomes the very source of transformation. Those childhood wounds, those moments of rejection and silence, reveal themselves as the crucibles of extraordinary resilience. The soul recognizes its own remarkable capacity for adaptation, for creating intricate psychological landscapes that protected the most vulnerable essence of being. Healing is not about erasing the past, but about understanding its profound wisdom. The mind begins to integrate its many fragmented parts, the hidden self and the visible self, the dreamer and the survivor, the potential and the protection. Each aspect is honored, each mechanism of defense acknowledged with a profound compassion that dissolves the old boundaries of limitation. If you feel that this story helped you see your own inner landscape more clearly, offer a like and share your thoughts. And if you want this space to remain part of your journey ahead, subscribe. Together we continue the path of understanding, healing, and awakening. Achievement is no longer a predator to be feared, but a natural expression of the self. The internal filters begin to dissolve, revealing a landscape of possibility previously unseen. What was once hidden emerges with a quiet strength, a potential that has been carefully preserved, waiting for this moment of true recognition. The soul understands that visibility is not a threat, but a form of authentic expression. The body releases its long-held tensions. Muscles that once contracted in fear begin to soften. Shoulders that hunched in protection start to straighten. The breath deepens, finding new rhythms of freedom. Each cell seems to whisper a story of liberation, of potential no longer contained, of a self finally allowing itself to be fully witnessed. Psychological isolation transforms into profound wisdom. The very mechanisms that once limited now become portals of understanding. The mind recognizes its own remarkable capacity for protection and potential, for survival and transformation. What seemed like a complex system of withdrawal reveals itself as an intricate pathway to authentic self-expression. The invisible part of the self, that fragment that learned to hide, to survive, to protect, is finally seen, finally heard, finally understood. Not as a wounded aspect, but as a source of extraordinary strength. The soul embraces its entire journey, recognizing that every moment of isolation was also a moment of profound self-love, of survival, of waiting for the right moment to emerge. Liberation arrives not with grand gestures, but with a quiet understanding. The self recognizes its own complexity, its own remarkable capacity for resilience. Achievement is no longer something external to be feared, but a natural expression of being. The psychological walls dissolve, revealing a landscape of infinite potential, a self finally ready to occupy its full, beautiful, complex existence. Connection becomes possible. Not as a threat, but as a natural extension of self-understanding. The soul that once retreated now understands that visibility is not destruction, but a form of profound, authentic communion with the world. If something in these words stirred a truth inside you, don't ignore it. Follow the channel and continue this inner journey with me. You were never meant to walk it alone.